Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to this month's featured webinar on the impact of 3G sunset on fleet management technology platforms. This webinar is sponsored by Protective Insurance. I am Amit Jain from Roadz, the marketplace platform which powers the Protective Marketplace. Over the next 30 minutes, you will learn how 3G sunset will impact the fleet management technology platforms you're currently using in your business. I'm sure some of you on this call are already going through the painstaking process of replacing the existing hardware on your fleets. I led Verizon's IoT strategy for many years and was the architect of Verizon Connect. So I had a front row view of all the processes a solution provider has to go through to get their devices certified on the next gen network. This, for the most part, should not affect you unless the solution provider waits until the last minute to get their devices certified. And trust me, that is more common than you think. Also, the issue of chip shortage this year and last year has further complicated the 4G migration issue due to the longer lead times. Hence, this issue of the 3G sunset is a top of the mind issue for many fleet managers who really cannot afford to take their vehicles offline for this switchover, and also don't want to stop using their fleet management solutions, which they rely on for efficiency, safety, and compliance. So to kick off the session, Harry Stock from Protective will share a few thoughts, followed by a presentation by Mauricio Berber, who will discuss the impact of 3G sunset, followed by an in-depth update on the Omnitracs IVG solution. We will end the session by viewing the IVG solution on the Protective Marketplace. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we will address those questions towards the end of the session. Also, in the chat box, I have put the link to the Protective Marketplace in case anybody wants to go there as we're going through this session. So without further ado, Harry.
Yes, thanks, Amit. And I'd like to thank everyone for registering for this continuing series of webinars that we offer each month. This one appears to be one of our best in as far as attendance goes, including our own Protective employees, as well as many of our clients and our broker partners. As Amit said very well, the 3G issue has been out there for a while. The sun setting is now getting closer. The sun is going down every day, if you will. Many of you all have likely already engaged with your technology providers to address this issue, but we felt it would be beneficial for our audience to not only talk about a specific solution, which we'll do today with the Omnitracs IVG platform, that is one of many offered by our partner, RMJ Technologies, but weave in kind of more of an industry, a general industry topic. So we do our best to make sure our clients and partners are aware of what is coming and solutions to help remedy that. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of your day to join us. And Maurizio, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. And can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Amit. Thank you, Harry. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about this very sensitive, time-sensitive topic. So in today's presentation, we'll be really looking at how managing the upcoming 3G cellular sunset, how it affects the fleet products out there. In this session, we'll answer critical time-sensitive questions such as when the cellular providers are shutting down 3G, what happens if the local 3G tower fails prior to sunset, and the critical supply chain issues that are currently affecting a lot of folks out there in the industry. So real quick, for those of you that don't know me, I am Mauricio with RMJ Technologies. We've been in business for 15 years. We are throughout the 15 years, we partnered with some of the top industry ELD and telematics providers out in the nation. And we're very proud of that because that allows us to be able to get a fair view of what truly is happening out in the industry. So today we'll be talking about what the 3G sunset is, the carrier sunset dates. We'll talk about the worldwide semiconductor shortage, delivery and back orders. And then we'll briefly be going over the Omnitracs IVG product, as most of you might already be familiar with. But for those that have not used it, we can do a refresher on showing what features. You might also learn that there are applications that are available in Omnitracs, but you're not currently using. So really quick, talking about the 3G sunset, obviously a bomb was dropped by the self-service providers in which they pretty much said, we're going to go ahead and stop supporting the 3G network, and moving forward, we're going to be focusing on 4G and 5G. As of they have released dates that I'll be sharing here shortly as far as what those deadlines are. But since making the announcement, it was made clear that when a tower is to go down, they were not going to be replacing it. So that means that if a event happens, for example, California has massive fires that takes down a whole bunch of the 3G towers, they're not going to be replacing those. And really what that means is they become dark zones. So for those of you who have operations nationwide, you're probably familiar with the dark zones where you're going to an area that has absolutely no coverage and you have zero connectivity to the device. Although the device is recording at all times, because FMCSA requires that all ELDs are plugged into the onboard computer of the truck. It is recording, but it's going to do what most carriers out there have, and is a store forward capability, which means it'll still record because it's capturing the movement of your truck, but it's not going to be able to send that signal because there are no 3G towers available. So the dates have been set, and according to the carriers, we're looking at Sprint having a sunset date of January 1, 2022, AT&T February 22nd, T-Mobile April 1, Verizon December 31st of 2022. Now, obviously, the issue is that there's a significant urgency. If you guys are Omnitracs customers today and you happen to have older models that start with MCP, that's the MCP platform, those mostly are all on the Sprint network. So it is very likely, actually, you are going to see that on January 1st, those will go dark. We're looking at it as Y2K for those MCP products, as they will no longer be able to communicate. So Omnitracs has set a expectation that any MCP platform users will have priority in shipments. So if you currently have that and your provider has not relayed this information to you, it is very important that you go and you talk to your provider or your partner and let them know you have X number of MCP devices that need to be swapped, because you need to get those exchanged before December 31st. As of right now, we'll be going over what Omnitracs' back order is, but it's getting longer and longer as we speak. So that's very important. So worldwide semiconductor shortage. So as the announcement came through for the 3G sunset, it kind of created the perfect storm where it caused for a large demand of devices, right? There's a lot of folks trying to get these 3G devices swapped out and upgraded. And because of COVID, a lot of factories have been shut down. So therefore, there was no production of semiconductors. As you guys all know, it's a shortage that is affecting all industries across the nation. And so with that problem coming, we ended up having a really volatile situation, which is basically there are deadlines that I just showed you earlier. They need to be swapped out or else your devices will go dark. Understanding that your livelihood is trucks have to be on the road, it really poses a potential big problem if you are caught in a situation where you are, doing it last minute and then you don't have access to any kind of ELD device for the next 3 or 4 or 5 months. So right now we know industry lead times for Omnitracs IVG is now up to 2 months. They do actually have the shortest lead time in the industry. We have seen as high as 8-month delays on other carriers. And as of right now, Omnitracs doesn't have a wait time on XRS. So they do have quite a bit of inventory on the XRS side. But of course, as you know, Omnitracs IVG and Omnitracs XRS are completely different platforms and operate completely different. One of them is a tablet, the other one is more of a ruggedized device. What we're seeing right now, which is really concerning, is the switch game. We are seeing that there are care providers out there that are promising customers or users the ability to get them hardware much faster than a 2-month wait time. So it's leading folks to want to change or make the change. One, they look at it as, oh, it's going to be very expensive for me to go buy new hardware with Omnitracs, and it's going to take you guys 2 months. But what they're telling these customers is, just come with us and we'll get you devices right away. There is, and we have seen this where customers are paying early termination fees with Omnitracs. They're going to another company thinking they're going to get the devices, and then that salesperson delivers the bad news that, oh, by the way, I didn't realize this, but we have a 4 or 3 month wait time. So just be very cautious of that, because immediately after looking at the situation, we're noticing that a lot of people are reacting based on emotion and being impulsive, saying, I'm just going to go somewhere else. But the reality is that everybody is in the same situation. So as I mentioned, with average wait times between 2 and 8 months, everybody is going to be having to wait for hardware to be available. You guys already probably are aware of this. Omnitracs is leading the way. They've always led the way in the commercial space. It's very important to understand that Omnitracs really pioneered the whole electronic logbook. Back when they were Qualcomm, they really started off with Swift and Schneider and all those large companies. And their model was really based on, we're only going to be working with customers that have 100 or more trucks, right? And that's really where they focused on. And then they captured a majority of the market. And then the ELD mandate came about. And what they did is they ended up realizing that they were going to leave a lot of money on the table, but they weren't really set up to help customers that were under 100. And that's really how the partnerships like ours and many others across the nation came to be, is because partners like us can provide more specialized support to customers that have less than 100 trucks. It could be 1 truck, it could be 5, and there's no minimum amount of units that need to be ordered. So that's one of the big benefits of them having a reseller channel that allows for that personalized service, and also allows for accessibility to owner operators. So it's very important to understand that Omnitracs has now made the transition over to the reseller channel. Was it like 6 years ago? And they're really working closely with us to make sure that we take good care of their customers. They do have nationwide service center, 24/7, 365 support. I'll talk about applications here in a little bit. But really what we need to talk and focus about here is consumer grade tablets versus military grade devices. You guys are probably all used to the actual IVG device, which you notice is made specifically for the cab environment of a semi. When the mandate came about, many companies came out of the woodwork saying, well, I can put this black box device that we plug into the computer, because that's what FMCSA requires, and I can just pair it with a tablet, and then now I have an ELD solution. Well, the reality is that not all ELDs are created equal. There is a significant difference between a consumer grade product that's being put into a commercial environment versus a product that was designed specifically for that type of extreme temperature, vibrations, dust, constant poking of big fingers. All of those things make a difference, even to the design of where the speakers are placed, glare, swelling of batteries. All of those things make a big difference on the performance. So we're gonna just look at real quick the difference between consumer tablets and the IVG, right? So some of the pros on the tablets is they are faster. Their reporting capabilities are faster. We look at this as a interesting point, because although they can report faster, you don't necessarily have to sit and stare at the screen. You don't really sit there and expect 2-minute pings. Although Omnitracs is giving you a little bit slower reporting, which is 3-5-minute updates every 15 minutes, it is still giving you accurate location on your truck. So another pro on the tablet is it's a much better looking interface. Obviously, they made it sexier, they made it look better. Omnitracs does have a weakness there, that it's a little bit more of an older legacy type product. They are working very hard to get that updated. They've been working on it for the last couple of years, and according to them, there's supposed to be some big announcement that it is going to be more up to date with what you're seeing in tablet solutions. Technology is a little bit more advanced on the tablet side, because they are able to take advantage of different sensors that exist, accelerometers that exist within a tablet, and the cost is much lower. So it's very, very attractive to look at a lower cost solution. But at the end of the day, when you look at big picture and you do the analysis, it ends up being more costly, and we'll talk about how that is. So some of the cons, again, it's designed for an environment, consumer use environment. So you're talking about situations that will come as a result of having a device that's not hardwired to the truck, in which you can start seeing things like the battery swelled up. I forgot to charge it. It got stolen. It overheated. There's all kinds of different things that are out of the control of the fleet manager that really can cause a big issue on the everyday flow of the company, and can end up being costly, because it could also set them out of compliance, or if the device is not responsive and they get pulled over at DOT, it's very difficult for them to show the officer their logbooks. It can be complicated for drivers to use. We tended to know that truckers really like simple. Some of them are still using flip phones out there. You know, they want to be able to use something that's easy to use and it's simple. That's one thing that the IVG really has a pro on, as opposed to a tablet where they have to take the tablet, open the application, try to sync it with a black box, hope that it syncs. If it doesn't, then now we have a troubleshoot situation. That can be, could take time. It could take man hours to correct. And so it's an issue that we see quite often when fleets deploy tablet solutions. And quite frankly, personally, RMJ has taken a stand that when it comes to over the road, we really just focus on Omnitracs IVG as the solution of choice, because when you do tablets to a fleet that's 5 or more, you start multiplying the number of issues that happen daily. And for us, it doesn't make sense to get a client into a contract with a device that we know is not really designed for that. You can put a really pretty rugged case around a tablet, but at the end of the day, it's still consumer grade. It's going to need to be replaced probably every 2 years. It likely gets replaced much more often than that. So over the long period of 3 to 5 years, the ROI on an IVG, though it's more upfront, can be much better. So military grade Omnitracs IVG, designed again specifically for the commercial use, withstanding extreme temperatures, struck vibrations, daily touch abuse. It's integrated with some of the top providers for commercial trucking. So there are a lot of partners out there that already integrate fully from TMS systems to navigation that will really help ease the use of the system and really get most of that initial investment. Again, very easy to use. Username and password. It's already hardwired to the truck. It's already mounted. It cannot be. You cannot upload other applications, so it takes away that urge to steal. These devices cannot be reactivated unless they are given permission by the previous owner. So there is a theft deterrent there. It is tamper-proof, so drivers can't just unplug it. Hardwired to the truck. It typically lasts between 5 to 7 years, and it's really been the best in class ELD based on the when compared to many others. We're partners with Geotab, Samsara, and out of all of those other ones that we've seen, like the Verizon folks, the AT&T, who rely on a tablet, we've seen a lot of folks, Keep Trucking being one of them as well. We've seen a lot of folks come from them and saying, I've had way too many issues, and I need to get an Omnitracs IVG. At that point, they're not even thinking about price. They're thinking about, I want my business to run smoothly, and I want it to be with a reliable system where my drivers, who are very scarce, can be happy by using it. Some of the cons I mentioned before, it's a little bit older technology, the pings are a little bit less, and that can be seen as a negative, but truly, as I mentioned earlier, it's not often that people sit there and stare at the screen expecting a 2-minute ping. When you need to ping your truck, it's there and available, so it's not like you're losing any data. The hardware is a little bit more expensive. It's a little bit more of an upfront investment, which many partners offer financing, and it's made it easy for them to get the best grade ELD without having to tie up cash flow. The monthly costs are a little bit higher than standard. Typically, you're starting to see the folks that are looking for hours of service on the tablet side. They're probably sub 30 most of the time. Omnitracs tends to have the most popular plan is the compliance plan, which offers pretty much everything that is needed for FMCSA compliance, and that one ranges between $33 and $38. So it is slightly higher, but there are a lot of features that and applications that can be added to the system. So wanted to share a little bit of case study here. We're looking at we often go up against tablet providers, right? And having been a partner of Samsara, Omnitracs, and GeoTab, we understand the landscape. We often hear, oh well, Samsara is going to pay my contract, my early termination fees, and they're going to go ahead and give me free hardware and all this stuff. So recently we had 3 large customers out of the South Texas area. One of them, TM Transportation Services, with 250 trucks, GRT with 200 trucks, and then Trancasa at 150. All 3 of them were giving an incredibly aggressive offer by Samsara. Samsara is offering to pay their early termination fees, which were above $50,000, and in some cases up to $80,000. Free hardware, and the monthly going down to $51 all in. Now, what they were looking with us was each one of these companies had at least $100,000 upfront investment, right, to get the new devices. They had to pay about $80 with all the applications that they were using and utilizing in comparison to the $51. And then they're going to get all completely new hardware. All these companies, by the way, also use Samsara in Mexico. Now, we ended up winning the business on all 3 companies, and they ended up staying with us. Partially was because of our customer service, but mostly it was because they understood that having to change new hardware, teach new drivers, and do the whole switch over was going to be far more expensive, and it was probably going to cost them some drivers as a result of it. They also understood that in Mexico, Samsara, FMCSA is not, there's no mandate. So if they make errors on the tablets, it's not a problem. But if you do that, translate that over to the US, and there are issues which they know there are plenty in the tablet solution, which they actually admitted to, when brought over to the States where it actually is mandated, it was going to really turn into a whole bunch of headache, a whole bunch of issues. So looking at the situation as to, okay, well, do I really want to spend $100,000 to stay with Omnitracs, even though it's slightly older and I have to pay more cash flow, or I have to invest more capital? The solution was pretty simple. At the end of the day, it's making your business run smoothly with something you're already familiar with, your drivers already know and understand, and you don't have to be a complete switch over. So that ended up winning the business. These were big major wins for us because, again, we were looking at an offer that was really hard to beat, with them wanting to pay their early terminations and all the other bonuses they were giving them. So I share that with you because it is very important to really look at the big picture. It may seem really good at the beginning, but over time, with the amount of headaches, with the amount of time that is lost, and the amount of tablets that need to be replaced, FMCSA score is much more valuable than that, and so is having trucks on the road. So that is very something to keep in mind. For some of you who already use IVG, I'm sure I'm just kind of reiterating what you already are aware of, but it's very rugged device. I mentioned the 2 speakers in the front. Again, this is specifically designed for the commercial environment, right? Having the 2 speakers in the front where you can actually hear it clearly, having the really bright lumens so there's no glare, having the big buttons so that you can just push and go, and then having it read out how much time you have left in your drive time. I mean, those are all big things that have really made a difference in the adoption of a device like this one. You'll notice here there's a cable, right? It's hardwired. So we're not seeing these being stolen. We're not seeing these being cut. If somebody cuts the cord, that's just blatant. They don't want it. And that driver likely is not in the fleet anymore. But we haven't really seen any tampering. Again, the actual installation and the connection that happens between the device and the vehicle is underneath the dash. So really, have to go out of your way to tamper with it. Most companies across the board have nailed down the whole dot on the map GPS and what it can give you, from geofence to dot on the map to reports, fuel consumption. All of those different things are pretty much standard across the board. One of the things that really makes Omnitracs stand out is the fact that it does show you the driver on the screen, and I'll show you some screenshots of what they can expect to see and how easy it is, because it really looks a lot like their manual logs that they used to work with. The only difference here is, again, it's efficiency and how easy it is for the driver to use it, and how easy it is for the back office to just pull reports if they have an audit, or be able to have optics and visibility on the hours and how many drivers are available to drive. So another thing is that there's no wire splicing. The old installations, so the MCP devices, some people may know this, used to take about 3 hours to install. It's the old platform, MCP 200s. You have to cut a big dome, big hole in the top of the truck and put a big dome on it. Obviously, technology evolved. The latest iteration of the MCP was the MCP 50. So it went from 200, 150, which was the affordable one that went from almost $3,000 down to $900. That one still required wire splicing, and it had multiple moving pieces. It had an external black box, which was the GPS. It had the external antenna. It had the wire splicing and the mounts and everything. So it was a big production to install, and it did require really a professional installer to come out and do the installation. Today, as it continues to evolve, the IVG, everything is inside, even to the point of having the transponder that you would normally need for waste station bypass. You don't even need to have an external one. So in pre-pass's case, you have to have an external transponder that will communicate to the readers if you are in that specific lane. With Omnitracs waste station bypass, and you have the transponder in there, your driver can really be in any lane if it's activated, and they'll give them the green light a mile before the scale even comes up. So it allows them to be in any lane. It's double the network, and that's one example of the different tools that are available to take advantage of with the Omnitracs IVG. So without the need of wire splicing, the installation is very, very easy. Dashboard, I'm sure some of you guys are aware of this, but it's important to understand that there are different applications. This is just the tip of the iceberg as far as what's available. This is for an example of what is already being used by the customer, but there's a suite of applications that are there. And the nice thing about the applications is that you can go ahead and turn them on and off, right? So you can go ahead and use truck specific navigation that'll keep your drivers away from low-hanging bridges, axle limitations, weight limitations, all that throughout the country. But you can turn that on X number of trucks, and you can turn it off the next month. So it does have that flexibility for customers to be able to turn on and off different features. You do have full visibility on the report side. We can talk for days about the reports that are available with Omnitracs. I chose this one because it does allow for the customer to be able to see more so how their drivers are doing, and also what the cost is. Like what's costing me the most? What type of behaviors am I seeing that I can have improvement on? And a lot of times these reports are actually used by the companies to help reduce the overall use of fuel or truck abuse by just simply having small competitions. Where they're saying the guy that is my best driver is going to get a $500 gift card to the steakhouse, whatever the case may be. As everybody competes to become that, they automatically start dropping the abuse of the trucks and the fuel consumption and different things that can actually help the efficiency component. As I mentioned, everybody's got the dot on the map. Everybody's got their list of vehicles. It's very similar across the board. Omnitracs has gone through some different evolutions, but this is the latest, and of course not the sexiest, but it is in fact a very functional, easy to understand. So the user-friendly component still there. As I mentioned, there are the compliance piece. This is what the driver sees in the actual IVG screen, and something similar can be seen here in the report on the back office. if they just simply click on this little box here. So if they click on this little box, they're going to get graphical format, they can get a summary, or if they want to go ahead and view the actual status on line by line, they can as well. They're able to have access to that, no problem. Vehicle inspection report. So a lot of times people say, well, it's cool that I can take the tablet around the truck and do the inspection and I can walk around with it. Okay, yeah, that is cool, but it also increases the chances of you losing the tablet or having some damage happen to it. So Omnitracs still has the same capability of being able to do the DVIR by asking and having the right check marks available. Unfortunately, because of the cable that is there, it's only meant for enough flexibility so that the DOT officer can look at it, pull the laminated card from the driver, so they can go ahead and have access to the HOS data. Now, that card, as mentioned, it's only going to give directions to the DOT officer to view the hours of service stuff. They cannot go into things like GPS data, GPS history, anything like that. So it's just specifically to access the hours of service piece. We do see quite a bit that drivers get nervous, wondering what the officer is going to be able to see. And then the other big thing that has really helped is those stickers. The stickers that are on the side of the door, it's amazing how much less harassment drivers get by having a sticker that says, this is being monitored by Omnitracs ELD. The difference between an Omnitracs ELD sticker and an actual and a different provider ELD sticker actually makes a difference, because DOT officers tend to have a good idea that with the Omnitracs device, they're really close and they hold hands with the FMCSA. So rules that are applied by FMCSA, Omnitracs immediately follows, and they're really good by the book because they have such a large customer base. So it's not worth it for them to risk anything and take chances on being taken off the list. There is a provider out there right now that's very popular in the tablet world, who is questionable as to whether or not they're going to remain as one of the approved providers. So it's important to understand that as much as Omnitracs provides as much flexibility as possible, as long as it is FMCSA compliant. And with that being said, I will go ahead and let the questions come in. I want to thank everybody for your time, and yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions I can.
Actually, Mauricio, before we get there, let me just take everybody to the Omnitracs IVG solution. So hope everybody can see my screen. I'm on the Protective Marketplace. As I said earlier, the URL is in the chat box if somebody wants to go there. But once you land on the Protective Marketplace, you'll see on the left side are a whole host of categories of solutions. So depending on what category you are looking for, you can go to that category and you'll see all the solutions within that category. You can also, if you want to just browse the solutions, just go through. It's an infinite scrolling, so you'll be able to see all the solutions on the marketplace. Before I go to the IVG, also, if you want to see any of the past webinars that we have done with each of the Spotlight partners, you can go to the resources section, and all the webinars are there for you guys to be able to access. So let's go to the IVG solution. So you will see there's a telematics category. When you click on the telematics category, there's a few solutions there, including the Omnitracs IVG solution. When you click on the solution card, you'll generally see typically a short description, a little bit longer description. Typically, there's a multimedia carousel. Sometimes there's YouTube video links that you can see there, features and benefits. Who's it for? So pretty much for all the heavy truck class, the Omnitracs IVG solution is functional. So that's why they have listed that. A little bit about the value-added reseller RMJ at the bottom. And on the right side, there is a brochure about the solution that can be downloaded, and you can view more details about the product. Also on the right side, you do see that there is a discount, which is being offered over the retail price. Obviously, there's a hardware cost, as Mauricio had alluded to earlier as well. But as he said, there are financing options. So the best thing would be for you guys to get in touch with RMJ and explore all those options. The way to do that is by clicking the request info button. which is on the solution card. So once you click on that button, it is a simple 3-screen process. First screen, we ask for the email address. Second screen, your name, your company name, and phone number. Third screen, your fleet size and fleet type. And that's it. You submit the info or click the request info button, and then somebody from RMJ will get in touch with you to answer any questions that you may have about the solution and pricing and so on and so forth. So that is pretty much how you get to the Omnitracs IVG solution. Now let me go to the questions. One of the questions is from Mark Davidson. And the question is, you stated that the 3G ELD devices will go dark after the 3G network is disabled. However, won't the devices continue to pull data from the ECM and therefore be able to transfer that data via Bluetooth to an external 4G or 5G cellular network device? Mauricio.
That's a great question. So from what we're being told on the Omnitracs side is that they will completely stop communicating. The Bluetooth option has not been brought up to our attention, and therefore I don't believe that is an actual option with the IVG. It may be with something like an XRS. We don't really have many XRS customers, but I have 2, which are under the 4G. But yeah, from what we're being told from Omnitracs partners is there will absolutely be no communication after the towers go down on those dates.
And just to add to that, having again worked with both Verizon and Verizon Connect, so the Bluetooth solution, I think, as you alluded to, Mauricio, has to be built into the solution. So if your solution, like you, I think, are suggesting that the IVG solution doesn't have that capability, so then you cannot take advantage of the Bluetooth connection if that has not been built in to the solution. So it has to be purposefully built in for that to work in case, and then there could be all kinds of data bandwidth issues and other things that people run into. So you really have to optimize the solution if you want to be using the Bluetooth connectivity for future-proofing the solution. Okay,
Absolutely.
let's go to another question. What is Omnitracs doing to help the customers with the added expense of needing to buy this new hardware?
That's a great question. So Omnitracs has had a promotion that they've kept extending, and they're actually their deadline for the promotion now is December 31st. They call it a platform modernization program, and that will allow any customer that is within 2 years or 1 year of their contract expiring, if they end up signing up for a 2 or 3 year service, depending, if you have 1 year left, you can sign up for a 2 year. If you have 2 years left, you have to sign up for a 3 year. But that will give them a $120 discount on hardware. Now, for a screen itself, most customers who have 3G IVGs will only need to replace the screen, and that $120 discount can be applied, and you're really looking at $755. There are partners out there that are offering other discounts on top of that, but I can say that because of the demand and the long wait times, the devices have gone from $929, and I've seen them as high as $1,100. Also to note is that we are one of the only partners in the nation that Omnitracs has that still have inventory in place. So yeah, it's a very high demand market right now.
So that lends another question, Mauricio. So if the customer goes direct to Omnitracs versus goes through you as a VAR, is there going to be a difference in the quantities available or hardware available or the lead times when you can deploy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, even Omnitracs Direct has to go based on the 2-month wait time. It quickly climbed from 12 days, and now it's at 2 months. And we expect that to go to 3 or 4 here in the next month or so, because everybody has waited till the end, and there's just this massive demand. So even if they go directly through Omnitracs, they're likely going to be told you have to wait the allotted time. And we, as the inventory that we have available, have set a price that's still fair. We're not marking it up. We're not gouging it. We're just basically saying, if you take advantage, it's first come, first serve. So if people need it, it's going to be available. But going through Omnitracs directly will be the exact same scenario as with us, only a longer wait.
Okay, another question is, are there currently any options to getting a new, other options to getting a new 4G ELD kit?
There's really not. I mean, you could try to go the route of XRS, which, as I mentioned, there's no weight there, but it's really a completely different system. It's a different company. It operates differently, and you go back to using a tablet. If, if it came down to worst case scenario, I need some type of ELD, I can say with confidence right now that XRS would be an option to go to, even if it's just a few trucks, just so that your trucks don't have to be parked. But really, it just comes down to being able to secure whatever is available right now as soon as possible.
If I can buy, and I'm sure there are some options, another question, there are some options to buy these devices on Amazon. How can I make sure that I'm buying a 4G capable and not a 3G device?
That's a great question. It's we're seeing it often now. Some folks that are actually trying to sell, and they have sold their 3G devices to folks that don't even realize that they're going to stop working in those dates that I mentioned. It's important to understand that any device, IVG specifically, that has a 1085 serial number and above, that is a 4G device. If it's 1084, that's going to be a 3G device. So understand, if you're buying something from Amazon or eBay, make sure you have that serial number before you place the order. Make sure you know that in fact is a 4G device, so you don't have to spend the money on a 3G and then have to go swap it out in a couple months.
Okay. Another question is, okay, so I invest in the 4G devices now. How do I know that a couple of years from now, I won't be forced to then migrate to a 5G device?
That's another great question, and that's something that we had to, grab by the horns, because in our situation, we had to look at it as, well, we sold these devices, expensive devices, to our customers, and now we're getting wind that we're gonna have to go and buy some new ones. So we did some research on our end to make sure that we weren't going to be selling these devices and then having this conversation again in 2 years. What we've learned through the research that we've done is that because 5G is not really fully deployed, there's still a lot of dependency on the 4G, that we're looking at least 5-year run, if not 7. 5 to 7 year run is what we were being told, which, 5 years in today's world is pretty long. But we have looked at that to ensure that we're not having these difficult conversations in the next 2 years.
I can just add to that, again, going back to my Verizon experience. So basically, these carriers, all of them have their devices generally with automotive OEMs. As you know, a lot of the automotive OEMs are deploying these telematics devices in their vehicles. So contractually, these companies, carriers, are obligated to give a significant heads up before they are to sunset a technology. So typically that timeline is 10 years or more. Again, every carrier probably has a different contract and different timeline, but I can assure you that because of their contracts with automotive OEMs, they are required to give very, very long lead assurances before they sunset a certain technology. So that also can probably help alleviate some of the concerns about this question that was asked.
Absolutely, thank you.
Sure. One last question, Mauricio. In terms of lead times, we heard something around 2 months or more. So what is your suggested lead time to fully replace a device? Because obviously you have to bake in, the fleets are revenue generating units, right? So they're out there making money. So you have to pull those offline, then do you have to coordinate installation, or are they self-installed? So what is a realistic timeline you're looking for replacing, especially on the larger fleets, mid to large size fleets?
That's another great question. For the MCP users, the lead time, the suggested time was 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, it has to be done as soon as possible due to the fast approaching December 31st deadline. For those that still have to wait, still have February 22nd, it would be do it now. We know that the resources are very scarce. We know that the lead times can go from 2 months to 3 months. And really it's about being proactive as soon as possible, because again, we're at the mercy of what's available on chips. And as you guys have seen, it's very volatile out there. So if you have if your rep has not been proactive in giving you all this information and getting you up to speed, reach out directly to Omnitracs, because they'll be able to give you more insight and information. But truly get in line, because people are already in the queue waiting for those 2 months, and you want to get in there as soon as possible. So that would be my suggestion, is just jump on as soon as you can.
Well, thank you so much, Harry, for your time, and Mauricio for your insights. Folks, that concludes our session for today. You will be able to look at this webinar if you want to on the Protective Marketplace. Thank you again, and have a great day.